Greetings from Atlanta, Georgia, and you're watching TV3.
Welcome to TV3. On this week's episode, we'll be covering the Rising Pacific, Amazon.com, the best Gundam that isn't a Gundam, I got a lightning deal, and of course, rounding things out by answering some of your comments and questions in the feedback section. As always, if you ever want to introduce a future episode of TV3, you can always do so by sending in your videos over to my email address over at typeb3@gmail.com. And with that, let's get on with the show. First up in the news comes a small little tease, but a good one, from our friends over at Good Smile Company, and it's regarding their Nendoroid series of toys. And that's because the next Nendoroid in development is none other than my boy, Kamina from Gurren Lagann. Yes, that's right, he is finally making his way to the Nendoroid platform, and all you fans of Gurren Lagann, and if you own that single release of Yoko Littner, well, don't worry, because she won't be alone for very much longer. Good Smile also had a second announcement this week that was arguably even cooler, and that is that they took Sentinel's Riobot Mazinkaiser, shrunk it down, and then turned it into a model kit. That's right, coming out next year for the low price of 4,500 yen, you can get yourself the Modelroid Mazinkaiser, and like I said, this is pretty much just the Sentinel Riobot in a model kit form. So things to expect, it won't look as pretty, it's only 70% of the size, and being a model kit, it's of course going to be a bit frailer. The one question I have is that the Sentinel Riobot was held together with metal pins and professional construction, so I just don't know if this model kit or how this model kit will in fact make up for those kind of absences. I look forward to seeing how it turns out. I mean, I've always loved Sentinel's work, however, their prices just kept me away. If this ends up being just as interesting from an engineering standpoint, but far more attainable from a monetary standpoint, then hey, I'm interested. I'm at least going to check out their first release, and you never know. If this is successful, I would love them to do a Shin Getter in the same sort of style. Moving over into the world of Bandai Tamashii Nations, they have revealed that their next release in the relatively new Metal Robot Damashi series of toys will be the best Gundam that isn't actually a Gundam. They're doing the Huckebein. Now, this, of course, is the mecha that starred in many Super Robot Wars games and was definitely inspired by all sorts of different Gundams, but never was officially a Gundam. However, it served as the series' sort of real robot mascot. And I've always loved this mecha. I especially love the colors they chose to do it with here. I love that sort of like aqua tealish going on. This is definitely a cool looking robot. On the accessory front, it looks like he's going to come with a giant gun, a beam saber, and a small little effect part. Not really too much else in terms of details. It will be an August release. It will be quite expensive at about 14,000 yen or $140 American if that's what you choose. In either case, I'm super looking forward to it, and August can't come soon enough. Moving on over to Bandai's hobby division, and they have announced that they are going to be doing 3 of the mecha from Pacific Rim Uprising. They're doing the Jaegers of Gypsy Avenger, Obsidian Fury, and Bracer Phoenix. Now, these kits are going to be the equivalent of a Gundam high grade, and their pricing also suggests that at about 2,300 yen. To be honest, these early promotional shots haven't really impressed me, but they also haven't disappointed me. They're just about what I expected. The only interesting thing is that the Gypsy Avenger will also have a secondary deluxe set, which includes a display stand as well as an LED unit that you can place in its chest. Now, following up from last week's episode, we have the full release details of the Master Grade Astray Turn Red, and it looks like a fantastic looking model kit. Now, this is going to be released at the end of February. It is a P Bandai exclusive, retailing for about 7,500 yen. Now, personally speaking, I've never been the biggest fan of the Astray, but I do really like this one, mostly because it's just very ridiculous. It's so obnoxious and it's so far up its own butt. It is like trying super hard and it's completely failing, and I love it for it. I love the stupidly oversized V-fin. I love the giant swords that it clearly can't hold without support. And of course, it's red. I love the color red. there really wasn't any way around that one. Now, despite it being a P Bandai exclusive, interestingly, Bluefin, our North American distributors, are bringing this over. So, if you do really want this model kit, you can walk into your local Gundam or hobby store and they should be able to provide it for you, which is always good news. Of course, the biggest piece of Gundam news to hit the scenes in this past week has to be the premiere of Gundam Build Fighters Battlelog 5 and the full reveal of the AZ Gundam. Now, I really like this Gundam. Like my friend T16 Skyhop said, this is essentially the Zeta Gundam wearing some Macross super parts, and I love it. Now, this model kit seems to be based upon the HG Accelerate Evolution Zeta Gundam, with, of course, the additions and mods made for this design. Now, unfortunately, if you live in Japan, this kit is an Amazon.co.jp exclusive, which I suppose makes a lot of sense now that they named it the AZ Gundam. However, just like the Gundam Turn Red Astray, Bluefin is bringing this over, so theoretically, come the end of January, you should be able to just walk into your favorite local Gundam supplier and buy this one right off the shelf. Easy stuff. Now, I was going to end the news segment here, but as I'm recording this, something very interesting just broke on the internet, and it is super cool, especially in the world of Gundam. Bandai are showing off a real grade Unicorn Gundam Luminescence model. Essentially, this appears to be a real grade unicorn with a built-in LED system where the inner frame changes LED colors from pink to green. There is no release date, no further details. Bandai have said that they are going to fill us in on this more in the next year, but at the moment, this just seems like a very, very large step forward in terms of Gundam model kits. Will it be cheap? Probably not, at least not based on what Bandai charges for LED units in their perfect grade models, but still, being able to see progression in model kits is always super interesting to me, and I feel like this is something that should be highlighted. Alright, so even though Black Friday is over, it seems as though the toy deals just don't end, because this week I picked up two really cool toys for two really amazing prices. First up is Figuarts Chun Li, or Chunners for short, based off of her Street Fighter V costume. Now, I have been really curious to see these Street Fighter figures ever since they were announced, especially from Figuarts, but I've also been tempted by the ones by Storm Collectibles, and it's just taken me forever to decide which ones I want to get. At the end of the day, Barnes & Noble's had this for 25 bucks, and that was too good of a price to pass, so I picked it up. Here it is. Unfortunately, they sent it to me with a crushed box, so that's a bit of a bummer, but the toy seems fine, and, well, I'll let you know how it is. Now, I'm super psyched for this next item I have because I was so pumped for it when it was first announced, but unfortunately had to pass on it due to funds at the time. However, thanks to Amazon.com and their lightning deals, I was able to score myself the Soul of Chogokin Dino Megazord, or Daizujin from Zyuranger or Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and I'm pretty pumped. I have not opened it yet. I am saving that for a special rainy day occasion, but just know I am really excited to have a Soul of Chogokin of arguably my favorite robot ever. I mean, it definitely was the one I loved the most when I was growing up, and to finally have this is great. And it's cool that I have the American packaging that really emphasizes Power Rangers, because even though packaging doesn't really matter to me, this is one of those toys where I associate all my love for it because of Power Rangers and not the Sentai that it was based on. All right, feedback time. Let's answer some questions. Kaid asks, Rin Tosaka has the best legs in anime. Confirm or deny? Deny. She's no Yoko. USS Zilla wants to know, what would you say would be the most badass looking Megazord? Unfortunately, I can't really answer this question without any sort of bias behind it because, hey, I grew up with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, so it's gotta be the Dino Megazord, right? It just has to be. It's the one. It's the most badass. Impossible Pie, hey Vince, do you ever buy retro toys from the 80s 90s of Chogokin robots or Transformers, etc., or do you just stick with buying the latest releases? Generally, I stick to the new stuff, you know. I understand the appeal of going back in time, you know, buying the things that you couldn't when you were a kid, or just having the appreciation for the original releases. But for me, it's all about the newest stuff. I mean, what's new, and new is best. That's the motto I live by when it comes to toys. Murakumo unit, if you were a giant robot mobile suit from any franchise, what would be the ideal mecha that best describes you? This question is really hard to answer. I don't even know if I have an answer to give you. I don't know. Megatron, bit of a narcissist, kind of cold-hearted, gives zero Fs about anyone else, vying for power, but constantly failing. Mm-hmm. No, that sounds about right. Is there any figure in your collection that gives you a glad I got this sweet every time you look at it and you never tire? Probably this. This is the Lego Millennium Falcon from The Force Awakens. I really love The Force Awakens from Star Wars, and I love Lego, and I always wanted a Falcon in a brick built form. Now, I know that there's the new UCS Falcon out there, but what I love about Lego and such is when they have fully working interior playsets to go around, and that's what this has. And I remember thinking about it that this would be the most expensive Lego set that I would have bought to date, and I'm super thrilled with it. It was just an amazing build. I got it over Christmas, and it's just a really cool set. Probably my favorite set that I own still. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's one of those things that because I don't regularly collect Lego, nor do I collect Star Wars, I was really hesitant on diving in. But now that I have it and it's been a couple years, I still walk by my shelf and go like, "Wow, this thing is really cool." And it's definitely one of the toys I have in my collection where when people come over, they always ask about it because hey, it's a recognizable object, but it's also Lego and then yeah, it's a really cool toy. Mattless Gonzalez wants to know if I ever break model kits or figures while playing with them. If so, do you still put them on the shelf, but in a pose where you don't notice the broken parts? So here's the thing. I don't think I've ever broken any toy I have when I'm just playing around with them or changing up poses in my free time. However, you would be amazed at the amount of model kits and toys I have broken while filming reviews for this specific YouTube channel. A lot of my build fighter high grades I have snapped in certain places just so I could get, a certain shot filmed. I know a lot of my build strikes, the waists have gone on them. They're usually like a ball socket, and they just snap on me because I try to do something a little too extreme for the model kit. Um, in terms of do I display it back on the shelf? No, not really. I super glue the piece back together. Sometimes that results in a part that is locked there forever, and sometimes I can do it in a way where it still is functional. But if something breaks, especially something that's super important to me, I do the awful, awful thing of just buying a second one, an all new, brand new one, and then I throw out the original. It's a pretty wasteful solution, but I've found that it's the only solution that makes me happy. What's your favorite Soul of Chogokin figure? Well, hopefully, I hope it's going to be this one, even though I've seen some middling reviews and some disappointment from fellow YouTubers. But I'm hoping that nostalgia alone will be enough to push it to the top. But I suppose if you had to ask me what my favorite SOC figure is for real, it's a tough option because I really only own two, and that is Gal Gaigar and Gunbuster, and both those toys are frigging incredible. Like I guess I would just have to edge it out to Gal Gaigar because it is the newer toy and things just feel a little bit more refined because it's newer. But take nothing away from Gunbuster because that's still a really cool. And finally, Spood Beast, what's the gunpla you regret buying or hate the most? So my answer to this question kind of has two parts to it because the first part is I don't think I've ever really regretted any one single Gundam purchase. That's simply because Gundams, at least the model kits, are really cheap in comparison to the other toys I buy that it doesn't really bother me if there's one that, doesn't quite live up to expectations. On the flip side, because they're so cheap, I find myself just buying all of them and saying yes to it so easily. And that gradual buildup of just buying mass orders of kits just makes you feel awful because I'm throwing away money at things I don't really care for at all. So, on one hand, there is no single Gundam that I regret buying. On the other hand, I kind of regret buying all of them because because I don't really care for all of them. And there you have it. You've reached the end of another episode of TV3. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, if there's anything I failed to mention or anything you want me to elaborate on further, feel free to leave your comment in the comment section below, and I'll get to it in a future installment. As for me, well, I got a new toy to play with, and I look forward to opening this bad boy up. See you guys next week.